This is the Andy-Social Podcast, episode 168 with Andrew Lilley of Daemon Pyre and a million other bands. But before we kick into that episode, if we haven't met already, my name is Andy Dowling, and as well as hosting this podcast, I also play bass in the Australian heavy metal band Lord. And we have a brand new single out called United. Welcome back. And it is the first single off our brand new album called Fallen Idols that is due out at the end of April, roughly. We'll have no doubt there'll probably be a date set very soon, if not already. But you can go and check out the new song right now on YouTube. You can also go to lord.net.au/united, which has got a whole bunch of details, including the video clip, the track listing for the upcoming album, including some really cool cover songs. So you might want to go and have a sticky beak to see what they are. And there's a whole bunch of extra information there, including, and if you're listening to this the day that this podcast episode comes out, you have one more day before pre-orders close for the United t-shirt. There is a brand new t-shirt design. We are doing pre-orders. Once that's closed off, more than likely we won't print any more. We're just doing a very small run. And if you want to grab that, you can certainly do so. And in addition to purchasing that t-shirt, you'll also get the United single, and you'll also get 20 plus preview and introduction tracks for the upcoming album as well. So it's a nice little teaser to get a real sort of taste of what this album's all about. So there's preview clips, and there's also introductions where Tim in our band actually gives a bit of context and a bit of the story behind each of the songs on the upcoming album. So really, really cool for any Lord fans out there that want a early sneak peek into the album. It's completely free when you get the t-shirt, so you've got about a day left before you can pre-order that. So go over to lord.net.au/united, go and check that out. Go and check out the video clip at the very least, and let me know what you thought, because, love to get some feedback. Love to know what you think. In addition to this podcast, playing in a metal band, I also host a second podcast called Self-Starter. And if you go to selfstarter.com.au, you can check out the blog and the fortnightly podcast. Season 1 is wrapped up as of the end of 2018, but Season 2 will be kicking off mid-year 2019. Self-Starter is all about small business, self-employment, and freelancing. So if you're interested in starting your own business, or maybe you already do have your own business, or maybe you're a freelancer, or maybe you just like to earn a little bit of extra pocket money on the side, or you know somebody that's a little bit restless and is looking for some answers or a bit of inspiration, direct them over to selfstarter.com.au. You can search for Self-Starter in your preferred podcast player. There's heaps of great case studies and stories from people that are already out there doing great stuff, and a lot of information around takeaways that I get from it, because I'm learning as I go as well. So go over to selfstarter.com.au, go and give it a crack, and I hope you like it. It is shout out time. If you are new to the podcast, every week I thank one person. I pick them out, put them on public record, and just give my gratitude and just say thank you so much for the support. And that support can be in a range of different ways. It can be anything from shouting me a beer on the PayPal, a button over at andysocial.net. It could be buying some merch. It could be something really simple like a message of encouragement, or a guest recommendation, or review, or whatever. It doesn't matter. It all helps and just keeps this whole thing going. And I really enjoy doing this podcast, but when you guys take that extra little bit of time to acknowledge or do something to support the podcast, it accelerates and just makes everything so much better and easier to do. So thank you so much to everyone that continues to support. This week's shout out, however, is for Colin Tay. Colin is from Singapore, and I got a beer shout from him not too long ago, and it was for episode 165 with Ladybeard. And it was just a really quick message that said, here you go, Andy. Thank you so much for the episode with Ladybeard. Really enjoyed it. Here's some dollars. So I got a couple of dollars from Colin, and thank you so much for the support. It means a lot to me. And as you guys know that have been listening to this podcast for a while, the reason why I call it a beer shout is that anything that I get from there, I can put on beer, which means that that's less of my own personal money that I'm spending on beer, and I can put that money back into the podcast. So a very roundabout and clumsy way of supporting this podcast, but rest assured that money does basically come back into the podcast and keeps this whole thing going. So there's always costs involved, and it just means a lot when people sling me a couple of dollars along the way. It doesn't have to be much because it all adds up. So thank you so much, Colin. Please shoot me a message when you hear this, and I will send you out some stuff in the post. I've got a bunch of things lying around here, so we all love getting something in the post. So please shoot me a message and give me your details. Thank you. On the podcast this week, we have Andrew Lilley. I've known Andrew for how long? I should have worked this out before. 15 years? either way, it's been a long time. It's been a long time that I've known Andrew. And for anybody that's been a part of or is a part of Australian metal or Australian heavy music, or even just loves Australian heavy music, will know Andrew from one of the million bands that he's been a part of. And I'm not going to rattle off the entire list because I'll be here for hours, but just some of the bands, just to give you a taste that he has been a part of, either as a permanent member or as a session player, include bands such as Days End, Infernal Method, Mortality, Psychor, Killraiser, Mortal Sin, and most importantly, his current band, Daemon Pyre. And we speak about Daemon Pyre quite a bit in this chat because if anybody that's been listening to the podcast for a while will remember my chat with Sam Rylett, which was, I don't know what episode it was, but it was early 2018. So you can go back and have a listen. But at that stage, Sam had left Daemon Pyre. And well, I'll let Andrew explain what's happened since then. Let him fill in the blanks. But when we were having this conversation, Andrew was getting ready to go to Thailand to finish off the Daemon Pyre album. So there was a lot happening and just a really cool story and really cool to see what's happening with that band because their first album was an absolute monster. And it looks like this next album is just going to be another great example of what this country is all about when it comes to metal. Just really, really cool music. So I'm going to not butcher any descriptions or explanations. I'll let Andrew explain a lot of this and I'll have links in the show notes as always. Lots of great things that we spoke about in this chat and obviously touched on a lot of his history in Australian metal. But also we touched on his next chapter. He is about to go to the US permanently, relocating, and I'll let him explain why, but really exciting to see what is in store for him. That next chapter for him is going to be huge. So we get into a lot of that in this chat. But as always, go to the show notes over at andysocial.net. If you're listening to this through a podcast player, there should be a bunch of clickable links that you can get to Andrew's social media profiles. Go and check out Daemon Pyre, and I'll put a whole bunch of videos featuring him in all the different bands over the years as well. So make sure you go to andysocial.net and check it out. Enough of me. Please enjoy this great chat with Andrew Lilley. Thanks for inviting me over.
Oh, thanks for asking me to do this. It's about time you got around to me. You've been through everyone else.
Well, I've had you on my list almost since day dot. But, I always like to leave the more important people till later on. Oh, I just shat on everybody that's been on the podcast. Cut that out. No, I think there's been heaps of people, and this is what we've just been having a conversation about all sorts of things, which we won't get into too much of that. But there's been a lot of people over the past decade or so, decade plus, 15 odd years in Sydney, where you see them everywhere, and you build these friendships with people, but you only sort of tend to meet in the same places, at gigs and all sorts of those sort of music related events, and your conversation only goes so far, and then that's about it. And you think you know people, and you go, oh yeah, blah, blah, blah. And then you realise after a while that you just got no fucking clue. So sometimes this is awkward as fuck with this podcast because it's like, hey, we're going to have a conversation and we're going to hold mics and have and chat now. But I've learnt so much more about people through this, using this as an excuse, being the podcasting gear. That sort of makes it less awkward. And it sounds really weird, but I've been able to actually have a half decent conversation with someone because, I don't know, there's no beer
well,
around.
maybe also people are kind of ready for it. They're kind of expecting it.
There's an expectation.
There's kind of like beforehand, it's like, oh shit, I'm going to have to talk. What are we going to talk about? I don't know. Can I talk about anything? What should I say? I don't know. So I think there's going to be an element of preparation, I think, involved in these things. Yeah,
definitely. And it's really awkward, especially like guys where you sort of go, hey, do you want to catch up for coffee? I just want to talk to you for an hour. And you're like, about what? I'm like, I don't know, whatever. We'll just see where it goes. But when you say, oh, for a podcast, it's like, okay, that makes a bit more sense. Like I can sort of sit with that a bit better in my head. So long way around it is that you're somebody that I've just bumped into numerous times.
In different states.
Both,
states as in...
Location
and also, inebriation.
And... I don't know. I've been fascinated with what you've done over the years, and I've talked you up in the past, and I know you don't like it, but I'm going to do it today. You played with some incredible bands over the years, and you're about to fucking jet off and take on this new challenge as well. So I thought this would probably be the best opportunity to take advantage of this moment before you disappear, and for however long, I don't know. So I guess maybe first things first, you're going to the US
Yes.
in a couple of months.
Uh-huh.
Why?
Why? Opportunity came up through work. I work for a financial technology company in commercial insurance. And somewhere I never thought I'd say that in my entire life. It was not intentional. Like, it was purely by accident that I ended up there. And it suited me when I first started doing it, because when I first started there, I was getting back into playing in bands and playing music consistently. I had 3 separate groups at the time. I had Daemon Pyre, Lilley, and also I was working on another project. And I was so musically focused, and it was just a job I could turn up, do my job, and leave. And it was very, I had a lot more control. One of my friends was one of the managers there. It was a very breezy scenario, and it was sales. So I've done that for most of my working life, and I tend to do well in that environment. So it supplies me with what I need and gives me the opportunity to do what I want to do. So it was always good. Though as time went on and things have changed and I progressed and again, the last couple of years, music has not been the dominating thing. Well, it has been, should I say, but not from a live standpoint or activity or touring standpoint. So again, the job I've tended to taken on a lot more responsibility and moved and changed and matured and grown and all these sort of things. And, then an opportunity, they have a US office and US company, which is very much a startup kind of thing. And I knew it was happening, and I asked about it. And about a year ago, they were saying they wanted me to go and work over there. But it kind of fell apart.
Okay.
And then late last year, I kind of re-engaged on it, and it came up again, and at this time it's actually the go. And at this point in my life, with where I'm at, it's actually perfect timing for me personally. So it's a great opportunity. At this point where I'm at in my life now, we're finishing up the Daemon Pyre second album, which has been 5 long, painful years in the making. And
it's a running theme with a lot of Australian bands. It's just like these long spells in between releases for a whole range of different reasons.
Oh, exactly. Like bands, you're aware. It's just, and in Australia, it doesn't make it any easier. The prospect of, anyway, we might go into that at some other point in time. But it's kind of, we're finishing up with Daemon Pyre, and we had all these big plans this year and all these other things in place, and then this has come up. But the reality is, it's something that I've needed, and I've felt like I've wanted and needed for my life for a long time. So I was born in the US to Australian parents. I moved here when I was 3. Always been open to wanting to go and go back and live there, but I've been so obsessed in my own little world here and I've travelled and I've been out, and I've been lucky enough to see a fair bit of the world, a lot of it playing music. But at the same time, relocating and going there, I was just like, well, I'm too busy. I didn't even cross my mind. I've got shit I'm doing. Or it just wasn't realistic. And now that it's come up, it's like, fuck yeah. It's just, to go and live in the US and to soak in a new world, to me is really exciting. And to be in this transition where Daemon Pyre, the idea this year was to finish it up.
Yeah.
To come back together, to do this album, to do some tours and some shows. We had a whole bunch of things lined up, but it was really like we're getting together, we're just doing this because we really love doing it, and we're going to finish it up because, something, again, we might get into is what's happened over that in the last couple of years. And it was really about enjoying, like taking it out on a point which was, we really love this.
Yeah.
We love working together. We love what we've created. We want to finish it up in a way where it feels good to finish it up. But then the opportunities come along and kind of thrown a spanner in that works. But I guess the main point is we get to do the album. But after that rambling monologue, yes, going to the US it's fantastic. I'm really excited.
You went last year
in December. I went for about 2.5 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was keeping a tap on what you're doing over there, and you're seeing some gigs and everything like that. moving to, is it San Fran?
Well,
Or
the company's in Oakland,
Yeah.
so I'll be in the Bay Area.
Yeah.
And for yourself and myself, that's like the mecca of, Testament, Exodus, Metallica,
Death Angel.
Violence, the list goes on. So, in fact, I think Violence are playing their show on April 6th, and that's like, I'll be there for like 3 weeks before that. I mean, again, like culturally and musically, like when I was there for 2.5 weeks, I saw everything from prog jazz through to, avant-garde instrumental to Nine Inch Nails to death metal. Like that the variety and what's available is just huge. So,
Did it give you peace of mind going over there and getting that getting that taste of what to expect? For the move that's going to happen in the next couple of months, did that sort of help you going over there for a couple of weeks just to sort of, I don't know, just gauge what you're about to walk into?
Oh, definitely. I mean, that was the point. They needed someone there, and I wanted to go. I mean, we've been working through the album for a while now, and it meant that I would be walking, like I'm driving that very much, and I was a bit hesitant, but at the same time, the potential opportunity made me go, look, it's 2.5 weeks, just go. And going there was part of me figuring out, well, is this something I want to do?
Yep.
And because it is going to dominate, a lot of what I do whilst I'm there. I'm not going there to pursue music. I'm going there to, to take on a responsibility as far as driving a business there, and that's a responsibility I've never had before. And it's exciting on a very different level. But then again, the opportunity personally to soak in. I mean, I was born there. Out of the vast expanse of the US, it's kind of freaky to get
So born in that same area?
I was born in Redwood City in San Francisco.
Oh, wow. Okay, sorry. I just thought, the US. You're born in the US. I'm like, yeah, sweet. Okay, but there's an even deeper connection there.
Yes. Wow. So I'm actually literally moving back to the same area I was born in. So after you're thinking about the vast expanse of the US and anywhere I could end up and go, to go end up moving back there for me personally is pretty kind of freaky.
Wow.
So yeah, and it's exciting to kind of to go there and there's just so much to soak in and experience, so much history, so much culture. And I'm also, I've also been glued, like many others, to the political climate of the US.
Enjoy.
And really, like when Trump got in, I kind of went, well, this is, no matter what, this is going to be fucking entertaining, isn't it?
Oh, for sure.
And it certainly is. Besides all the diabolical shit, it's certainly entertaining if you're just following the Mueller investigation. But I mean, interestingly enough, it brings about a certain self-awareness, because going into the US, I became, uniquely aware of, don't be a dickhead. All right. One, guns and politics are not things here you should just be blasting your opinion about, because the reality is you're ignorant. You don't fucking know. So go there. And I had to keep an open mind. And I had to, but there by myself. I was going out. I was going to things. I was talking to people. And it wasn't like someone would tell me something that opposed my preconditioned beliefs. These things that I'd already built up, that in Australia you get, you make it, you build an opinion, build an opinion on something. The reality is you don't know.
That's it.
Yeah. And so when you get there, when I got there, it was like, I need to be open to everything, to all conversations, to all viewpoints, and really to understand. And instead of talking to people and thinking, oh, well, I don't agree with you, so I'm not going to shut off. It's like going, no, actually, hang on. Because I do believe politically, I believe in the idea of communication, no matter what your views are, which I think is something severely lacking in the climate we have in our world, where people just seem to be diametrically opposed and wanting to more yell at each other and scream each other down, than actually sitting down and going, well, I disagree with you, but the reality is you can't say to someone, you're wrong, and they're going to go, oh, okay, well, you've changed my mind now. I'm going to now do what you think I should do. That doesn't work. So how does it work? Well, you got to realize this is my opinion. So, hey, this is the forum. But that whole thing of, being open to communication and being able to accept and communicate and talk about ideas that you don't agree with, to people who have viewpoints you might be absolutely opposed to. to be open to having those conversations and being open and willing to interact without getting offended, without getting emotionally involved. By being open to going, we're all humans. We're all gonna, as long as there's been humans, there's been conflict and there's been disagreements and different points of view. But it's really how we interact and we communicate that makes the difference.
And I think also one thing that people, and this is where we've got that big problem where it's a bit of a shouting match at the moment, and people are picking their team, and it doesn't matter what the team does. That's your team. That's your identity. And I think people don't have to sit on either side. You can sit wherever you want. You can be fluid. And when you're having those conversations where it is a little bit sort of, it's not, confrontational is not the right word, but where there is an opposition of beliefs. And I think one thing to sort of get the conversation going in a more constructive direction is to be able to understand why somebody thinks the way that they do. And it's sort of having that perspective. So it's almost like, and you don't even have to articulate it verbally, but to sort of think, I understand why you're saying the things that you're saying. I understand why you believe these things, because probably I know a little bit about you, and I know your background, I know your environment, where you live, and the people and the influences and things like that. And I understand that probably a lot of the decisions that you make or the beliefs that you hold are sometimes due to things such as fear, or things such as that you feel are damaging, or something that's attacking you. And so a lot of the decisions that we make are based off being defensive. So I think when you sort of break that stuff down to begin with, then you have got a little bit more compassion for people, and you can start to have a bit more of a conversation that's more fluid, instead of just, now it's my time to talk and I'm going to tell you exactly what I think and shut up.
Oh, but it's not like, though, you can't, I mean, this is definitely not coming from a place of a high horse. Like, you're still an emotional human being, and someone says something that really, it impacts you, then you're going to sit there and have a reaction to it, no matter who you're talking to or whatever else. But getting back to the original point is that, going to the US, I had to be careful about politics, and being open to having conversations with people who may have views that my preconceived opinions and beliefs may have really clashed with that. But also things like guns. Coming from Australia, where I've never even thought of that being something I'd need. Yeah. Going to a country where it's part of who they are. But again, I can't go spouting off about, I think about gun control or whatever else, because again, I don't understand. So I guess the bigger idea is going there to understand, to live here where we are, which is so separated, secluded, and to go there and to kind of go, right, I'm here. I get an opportunity now to learn, to understand, to experience, to immerse myself in this culture that we see on the outside, and all these variety of different craziness associated with it. And to kind of then go, well, how do I really feel about it? What do I really think? And being open to, my opinions could vastly change through this, to what I first went there with, as opposed to what I believe while I'm there. So,
I think to give you appreciation from where you've come from, but also maybe to sort of understand maybe things that aren't quite right back at home that you've taken for granted, or you haven't even thought of, and suddenly you see it through a different lens. And you go, oh, maybe something that I've been used to or have accepted is probably not the best thing. It's not the best approach or the best way of looking at something through the lens of somebody else. And I mean, it's hard to sort of look at the US as a completely different culture, but they are.
Yeah.
We've taken a lot from them over the years, and we're very influenced by the Americans, but ultimately they're still very, very different to us. Very different. So there's a lot to learn.
Certainly is. And I think that's probably one of the main points, is to go there and be open to that. Look, it's really exciting on a lot of different levels.
I'm going to jump all over the place, but I guess on the topic of you wanting to learn, challenge some of your opinions and beliefs that you've sort of built in over the years of your own environment and experiences that you've had. Does that stuff translate into the Daemon Pyre stuff? Like, from a lyrical point of view, is this something that you're contributing to? I know, obviously, from the music, it's massive, but are you? I don't know who contributes what, but are you are you influencing the lyrics, or is even the music side of it being influenced by some of this stuff?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
One, lyrically, that's Sam.
Yeah.
I leave that to him. My lyrics sound like...
He shares a lot of stuff. He probably share a lot of similar things to...
Oh, look, we have a lot of similar ideas and beliefs. But no, I leave lyrics to him. If I try and like write lyrics, I stopped that when I was about 17 because they sounded like a Z grade, bad Bay Area thrash band. Like it was just horrible. And I'm going to stick to playing guitar.
Yeah.
No, but writing music for me is different. I guess I can tend to contribute a lot of stuff to Daemon Pyre, and there are other people in the band who contribute a lot to it as well. Even people who aren't currently in the band contribute to it musically. So not so much the external factors. I think music for me is a very internal, very personal, very much self-expression based, an extremely emotional sort of thing for me. So yeah, the external factors are definitely something that impact me as far as who I am and that sort of thing. But music is very separate from that.
It's very separate. But I would assume that there's probably a link. Oh, there's a link between everything. You can always find a link, but sort of getting to this point where you're getting closer and closer towards closing that chapter with Daemon Pyre, and then for you personally, opening this next chapter for yourself that's separate to music, going to a completely different country and almost not completely starting from scratch, but kind of in a way, it's all linked together. You're sort of closing off something and opening something else.
Well, we'd already started the process because with Daemon Pyre, we'd already started the process of, well, we're going to be finishing this up. That came about in 2017. Simon, the other guitarist, said he was going to leave. He's got 3 kids and his own business, which is quite successful, but keeps him very busy, and he just didn't have the time to dedicate to it, to give it what it needed. But then Sam bailed later in the year, and Daemon Pyre very much has been driven by Sam and I. We work as a team. We want to kill each other a lot, but we also work together. And we're both very focused, driven people. And when he bailed, he had a lot of things he was dealing with, and it was a big overhaul for him. But then I was kind of left there going, oh, fuck.
What do I do?
What do I do now? Because there's only 3 people left in this band. And I was kind of going, shit. And we'd also just changed managers because Youngie was working... Matt Young was working with us on behalf of this management company who will remain nameless. And so we got assigned a new manager. And the first thing this guy, I'm telling him, like, we're having this great chat, firstly, because he's unaware. Because it only just happened. And then I just was like halfway through going, what are we doing having this general chit chat when like I'm going, I don't know what the fuck's going to happen from this point. And so I just blurted it out.
It's like, oh, by the way, I don't
have a singer anymore and this is going on. And well, I think, it could be fucked. What do you reckon? And
do you want to take us on?
Yeah. Well,
you sound keen.
We were contractually obliged at the time. So this guy didn't have much of a choice either. And he was just kind of like, whoa. And, it's interesting because, it's funny to be at this point in my life and still be so naive in regards to a lot of this stuff, is that your responsibilities as part of like being involved in a management contract, because you think that these people are supposed to look after you when the reality is no, you've got to look after you. You have to be self-sufficient and look after yourselves, and they're just there to work with you in a business in a professional sense. They're not your mum. They're not your dad or your mum. They're not going to fix things for you. You are still responsible for you. But it's interesting how that, for me anyway, through that experience, how I viewed it and how I got through that to realize how, we needed to sort our own shit out and that no one else was really going to do it for us.
It's a big thing because I've certainly had that same sort of perception of what management is for a band, and I think that just comes from the stereotypical sort of rock star stuff from
you
read
the dirt and you read a whole bunch of music autobiographies,
a bunch of intoxicated guys that get dragged around and held by the hand,
mummied by these,
bailed out of troubling situations, and you just think, oh, so if we get management, we're sweet. And they'll make us rich, and they'll work it all out.
That's the way it works, isn't it?
No, yeah, and then you realise, oh no. Well, look, maybe decades ago it was more common that there would be situations like that, but I think exactly what you said. You have to sort of get yourself to a point where you're producing a volume of quality and content makes it sound so artificial,
but that's what it is these days. It is about generating content. I mean, you feel like you're at a marketing seminar, but that's, and people don't, in particular, when I was saying before, when you're talking about music, and for me it's such an emotional and personal thing, content, you want to call what I do content? How dare you? It's true though.
But then a manager is there to say, you guys do really great things with what you've done yourselves, and I can see opportunities, and I'll use my knowledge to link the things together.
Yeah.
And when I find that link and bring that opportunity to you, then I obviously get what I deserve from that. But it's not a case of, you're going to give me nothing and I'm going to create something out of nothing and then give you guys all the fruits of my labor for you. It's far more, there's a lot more responsibility there on the band, but that's something that I had no clue on for a long time.
I've had lots of different types of management over the years, and it's meant a lot of different things. From, I'm not even going to go into it, to be honest. I might end up incriminating myself.
I had a bunch of bands that you've been in fly through my head just then. I'm like, whoa, where are we going with this? This could be fun.
Yeah, no, I certainly have no interest in putting myself in the shit right now.
You are leaving the country.
This is true. A lot of people will probably be happy about that. But yeah, look, I was at that point and really going, I don't know how we're going to make this work. And then we got the opportunity to do the cattle decapitation support in early 2018, but we didn't have a band. And this manager, and he was driving us to do this gig in a very short space of time, going, you guys have got to do this, you got to make this happen. And I was like sitting there going, we haven't got a fucking band. And I ended up pulling in some people who were interested in working with us to do the show, just hurriedly trying to make it happen. Like, just fucking do it. And it was shit. Not the people who came in are great musos and all that sort of thing, but it was a shit gig. We were not good. It wasn't right. You know, the people involved are good musicians, but it wasn't. We
Nothing concisive about it.
Yeah, it was terrible. You know, like we held ourselves, and we've always held ourselves that we have to such a high standard, and that show was just abysmal. And I got off there going, I would rather kill this now than do another gig like that again. And you know, that was the thought process of, well, why the fuck are we doing this? What's the purpose? You know, are we wanting to drag around a corpse of a band that no one gives a shit about, that once might have been half decent on a local little tiny level? Like, what's the value in that? And is it just about my ego not letting go of that? You know, so it was really that thing of just going, well, why am I doing this? Or why are we doing this? And the whole burning thing throughout it is because of the music. And it got to a point, and this is actually before we got to do that show, where I actually I'd been working with Kyle. He was the bass player in As Silence Breaks, which was what broke up and became Daemon Pyre. But he left the band when it was still As Silence Breaks, before it became Daemon Pyre. He did the Daemon Pyre record. But he basically bailed straight after that. But he and I had this great musical creative chemistry. He's very, very, you know, like we listen to a lot of similar stuff, but I'm the old school death metal guy who listens to Testament, Carcass, and Morbid Angel, and he's the guy who listens to Norma Jean and a lot of far more modern experimental music and hardcore and all that sort of stuff. You know, the stuff that the traditional metalheads fucking hate. True. Yeah, that's fucking shit, man. But we had this great thing because I love big melodic music, and he writes these fantastic, progressive, amazingly layered and structured melodic stuff. And then I'll just chuck death metal riffs in there, and I love the way we work together, and it's a great chemistry. So we've been writing songs. We're actually looking to just release a song now. We actually recorded 3 years ago. So we've been writing music, these songs, for like almost 5 years since the last album. In fact, we had the song we're about to release was the first song we wrote after the last album, which I think came about within 6 months of finishing the last record.
Wow. You've just been sitting on it.
Well, yeah. I mean, again, the management company's sitting there going, you shouldn't release this, you shouldn't release this, you should save this, you should do this, and shut up. So we had all this material, and we've been working on this album for years, trying to get it together with all the other stuff that just gets in the fucking way.
Yeah.
And it got to a point where I just said, I don't care if this band falls apart, and I don't care about playing gigs and pushing something that's going to be shit, but I really want the album to be done. And it wasn't, and of course, you know, I have my own selfish element to it, which is I've worked and poured so much of myself and my life into this, and I really want this to happen. But it was also about, well, it isn't just about me, it's about the people I work with, and this album wouldn't have happened without working with these people. These songs wouldn't be there, and I'm like, and these are people I like making music with. They're my friends, they're people I've spent so much time, we've bonded, we've worked together, we've done so much together, and it's like, I just want to do this. Even if we do nothing else, let's just do this. And that was the agreement. I got everyone together and I said, let's make it just a pact between us. No matter what, we're doing this fucking album. And that was that was the intention.
Did that sort of conversation between everyone happen after that gig?
No, before.
Or before?
Before. Like when we were in that turmoil point, and you know, over Christmas, New Year's, which was only like a month after, you know, Sam bailed, and we were, you know, trying to figure out, because we spoke to this new manager in the US, and he was, you know, and halfway through the conversation going, by the way, we're fucked. And then at the end of that, I didn't hear from him for 6 weeks, which is really not confidence building at that point in time. But again, my ignorance, going back to an earlier point, my ignorance of what a manager was and what a manager meant at that time, you know, that really fueled my what the fuck attitude and what am I doing and whatever else. So yeah, we made the decision. We were going to just, no matter what happens, irrelevant of everything else, we're doing this album. If the band never does anything again, if it all goes to shit, we're doing this fucking album.
So did you, like, so you've sort of made this pact between everyone, but then you've gone and done this gig that, from your point of view, was a bit of a train wreck. Did that sort of solidify in your head that this pact that you've made is even more important now, because the live stuff is just, it's not even important anymore? Because, do you know what I mean? Like, it's sort of, it's become secondary. The album is just so much more important than anything else, and the gig sort of validated this pact that you've already made? Or am I thinking into it too much?
No. Again, I think about everything too much. Yeah, no, there's definitely an element of that.
Yeah.
Because it's like, to be honest, I don't enjoy playing live that much. It has never been about being a performer or being on stage for me. That's never been a driving factor. In fact, I hate being the center of attention. I've always loathed it. But you put a guitar on me playing the music I love playing, and then it makes sense, and I can see a point in doing it. And if I feel good what I'm doing on stage, like I can hear what's going on, the band's good, and it's the right conditions, I really enjoy the experience. But if it's not, I fucking hate it. Like I do, I despise it, and I get off, and I'm way too hard on myself, which so many musicians, as you know, do. You know, you get off stage and you're hating yourself after.
And then someone comes up to you and says,
"Oh, dude, that was amazing. It was the best gig I've ever seen you fucking play." And you're going, "No one actually pays attention to what I do." Because if you did, you'd go, "Fuck." Though recently I had such an amazing reaffirming moment when I watched a live clip of some dude on his phone with Carcass, like I think it was in Fort Lauderdale, and Bill Steer, who's God to me, was so shit at this gig. I suddenly went, "Oh, even God has shit gigs." I feel better about this. But yeah, it's not about performing. It's not about playing live. I don't give a fuck about that. In fact, the best experience I had playing in a band have been writing music and in a rehearsal room. And, you know, I don't understand people who say, "I hate rehearsing." I'm like, that's my favorite bit. You know, like you get in a room, there's no distractions, there's no bullshit. You can get in there, you got all your gear, everything sounds fucking great. and you could just pump out these tunes you love playing. You worked on together, and you can just make this fucking music. And that, to me, I value that.
I don't think there's a lot of... I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that enjoy rehearsing and enjoy that part as one element of the whole experience. But I don't know too many people that would really put that high up in the list of things that they like. Even for me, and actually, I'm not the best example. Actually, I will not refer to myself. But I understand why people put most of the importance on the stage, because the stage is where, from an ego point of view, you get the validation of the people in front of you. You get to show off a bit. You're putting on a performance, blah, blah, blah. And there's a different type of energy in the room as well, because people are enjoying it and it goes backwards and forwards. And you've also there's a bit of an uncontrolled element to it all, which is kind of dangerous, and it's kind of cool. And it keeps things sort of, keeps you on your toes.
Oh, it's definitely exciting, yeah.
But when you explain the rehearsal thing like that, that makes sense in my head. But I don't think there's a lot of people that put it up that high.
Yeah, again, when I think back on bands, I think back on great rehearsals. Sure, there's been great gigs and great experiences, but there's been also rehearsals where I've stood in rooms going, fuck, this is amazing. And that I've really loved. What's the first time you make a great new song work? You know, or when you have that first rehearsal with a band and everything clicks and you stand there going, this sounds fucking great. And that, to me, was just so much more important, to me personally anyway. So, yeah, and I think playing live is also, to me, felt like, yeah, it's an obligation to a certain extent. If it's all the right things going on, yeah, I enjoy the experience. But I tend to stress myself out because I want to play perfectly, yet I'm not going to stand like a statue on stage. I'm going to go hard. But that whole thing of then going hard means that I play like a retard. And so, you know, you can't, again, I'm not Ben Wyman. You know, I'm not one of these guys who could throw themselves over the stage and play perfectly. I struggle to play what I do just standing still, let alone trying to jump all over the joint and move around. So it's kind of then you're in that scenario of, well, how do you put on a show but also play the way that you want to? And the only way you do that is you're playing constantly. The only time that I found on those experiences where you play 30 shows in a row, when you are in that flow of playing that many gigs.
And how often does that ever happen? Which is
there's plenty of bands that it does, but the reality is that, as far as my experience is being concerned, it doesn't happen enough that I really enjoy it. And so it's usually you're playing 3 to 4 gigs in a row at the most. And that's not enough for me to get into a zone to really then feel comfortable and settle in and find my groove in a live environment. It's only when I am playing that many shows in a row that I do. And that's like the 5th or the 6th gig where I go, oh, okay, I get it. Yeah, I know what I need to do. Okay, sweet.
I'm 100% the same. I think I enjoy playing on stage, but it's usually in particular parts of the whole set. And it's not songs. It's no particular song that I'm like, oh, this is my favourite song or anything. It's just probably halfway through the set or within that first quarter where things start to sort of fall into a groove. You're starting to hear things. Even if things sound like shit, you're starting to hear things. Things are starting to poke out and you can understand where you're fitting into the whole thing. And then 3 quarters through the set, you're sort of like, and then by the end of it, you're like, thank fuck, it's done. But the reason why that comes into my head quite often is because from our point of view, we play one show here, 4 months later we play another show, one-off shows. And so the rehearsals become a chore because it's seen as an obligation to the one show, and the one show becomes an obligation. And there's no opportunity to build up and really sort of oil the machine to get it to a point where everybody's completely locked in, and the elements of the stage and the system that you're playing through and everything like that are sort of, they are important, but they become secondary because you can override that. And I've only ever had that when you're getting into that 4th, 5th show in the row. And for us, I can only I probably on my one hand count the amount of times that we've played that many shows in a row over our entire 15 odd years as far as the current band's concerned. And that's frustrating because, I see people that do the 20 dates in North America or Europe or something like that, and I go, man, show 4, show 5, bam, that's it. You're on your way. you're on your way, and that's when it becomes.
Yeah, but you would also, there's another element to that which influences, which is also how are you as a band? If like, are you a group of people that really gets along, that can really do 20, 30 shows in a row? Because even if you lock in musically, it can suck ass if you don't, and it can be an abysmal fucking experience.
You would have had different ends of the spectrum over the years, playing with so many different bands. Like you would have experienced that painful sort of getting blood from a stone type of dynamic with a band, but then also having the other end where things just gel and people get along.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, everything, and I guess I feel fortunate. I can be fortunate to have those, experiences of going. I've been in bands where I've been standing in the room going, I can't believe I'm standing here. It's fucking amazing, and I'm so glad I've had those experiences. But just as valuable, the ones going, why the fuck am I doing it? This sucks. This is shit. And but you learn so much from that, and it's not like personal growth comes from just everything being kind of happy and sunny and lovely. It's like you got to go through shit things to kind of go to learn from them. Or if you are continually going through shit things and not learning anything, well, maybe you're just not fucking learning.
It's I mean, I use this term way too much, but I always say character building. Like, it's just to be able to, and I certainly haven't played or worked with as many people as you have over the years. I mean, and I say this with the most amount of respect, but you have been the ultimate band whore over the years, and I've always said that about certain other people, but I think you're sort of at the top of the list as far as the amount of bands you've played with over the years. So many, and I'm not going to rattle them off now. I'll do that later on when you're not around. But it's I think it's a true test of character. I think when you're looking from the outside, when you can see somebody that is continuously finding themselves in new environments with different people. And I think, no doubt, as you said, you need the good and the bad, and it's a development opportunity. I think the fact that there's awareness there of that is so good, and I think a lot of people never get that chance to be able to have that dynamic. Maybe in the workplace, maybe in the office, and you change jobs all the time, but it's a different thing altogether. I think music's just maybe once again thinking into it too much, but I think there's something where you have to rely on other people around you, like in a rehearsal space or on stage. Everyone's got their own responsibility, but ultimately you've got to be able to work together and perform, and you've got to lock in some way, and that's a real challenge at times. Oh,
definitely. I mean, I'm awkward as fuck. I'm shy. I'm abrasive. I can be. I can be very direct and impulsive, and again, when you're in those environments, that's an explosive type of personality to have. I'm really passionate and creative. Sure, I know that about myself. But then when you're working in those environments with different people, the clashes you can have are significant. And I've certainly had my fair share of those too. So yeah, the idea of how to work with other humans effectively has not been an art that I've always been spectacular at. But being in different environments has certainly been a big learning experience for me. And every band's got a different dynamic, and the difference, work in different ways. But what I found was, for a long period, when I was, I've kind of got like when I was two different periods of main activity, as far as for me, when was like from 98 through to 2006, I think, was a really big period of activity for me. And then from about 2013 through till 17 or 16, in between I was doing a lot of stuff, but it wasn't active. But yeah, what I really found in that early period is that I just went from band to band. And I would get involved. I'd do a lot of gigs, we'd write some music, whatever else, but it wouldn't work out. But I always wanted to, but and for whatever, then one of the main reasons would usually be because I'd come into a new band and not so gently want to say, well, I want to write music. I want to be involved. I want to do this, and really passionate, really gung-ho, young and immature, and the approach of just jumping in and going, fuck yeah, let's do this. but I was stepping on everyone's toes.
How dare you come in here and...
Oh yeah, man! Like there was and again, and you know, like coming in and just being keen and young and wanting to be involved and loving it so much and whatever else. But you end up stepping on, you know, going into any established group or in any group environment. There's a hierarchy. There is a way that they work with, you know, from a personality point of view and also from a musical and creative point of view on a lot of different levels. And I didn't give a fuck about that. I just came in going, all right, let's do this, fuck yeah, and just wanting to go a million miles an hour straight ahead, and firing shit off. It really got to a point after going through a bunch of bands where I went, I don't want to join anyone else's band ever again. The last one that really had a huge impact on me, I moved into state for. I had absolute belief in, and I was really excited about, which was one of the best, for the first 6 weeks of it, one of the best experiences I'd ever had, and until this day, one of the best experiences I've ever had in a band, but very quickly turned into one of the worst experiences I'd ever had, and was extremely emotionally damaging for me personally, and I got out of it just so angry for a long time, and that's when I went, no, fuck this, I will not join another band again. And I got to do a lot of fill-in stuff, which was really cool.
But that's a different thing altogether, isn't it? I mean, you go in there knowing that you've got a limited role. Like you're going in there to do a job, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I got to do a bunch of that stuff, and that was a lot of fun because there's no responsibility.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was pursuing my own thing. You know, back then, what became Daemon Pyre was what I was doing in 2007 and 2006. So a lot of the material was still around or written around that time. And I spent 4 years trying to make that work, and it didn't. And yeah, that's a whole nother level of frustration.
Well, we won't spend too much time on it, but you know, I was there for a blip in the radar.
Oh, you were? You came to a rehearsal. That's right.
Yeah. So we had a couple. I didn't hang around too long, so apologies for that. But I remember you having riffs and song structures in place, and songs that even at that stage you'd been sitting on them for a long time. I remember you talking about them, and it was almost, I think there's a level of frustration that I think you had at the time, and correct me if I'm way off the mark, that you're so desperate to get this music out because you've been sitting on this stuff for so long. And I think at that time there's a few guys there, and it wasn't too bad, but I think there was a big hole around vocalist, and I think it was this never-ending nightmare of just trying to find somebody. And there's a few people in mind, but just never quite happened. And then I wasn't around for too long, and I fucked off, and then didn't really hear much more about it. And I think, but then when that Daemon Pyre album came out, I heard a lot of that in there, and I thought that's fucking cool. And it was actually really good because I found the folder of the demos you'd flicked through to us, and I went back through, and it was the folder was like AAA or quadruple A.
Oh yeah, because Andrews.
There was a few Andrews and an Adrian in there, and so I was going back and I was listening to it, and I go, oh, that's a fucking riff from there. Oh, that's cool. And so it was good from my point of view because I remembered just a little bit of it and a couple of comments that you made along the way, and it was a few years later.
Like a long time later, and to be honest, that was, you know.
A lot
of stuff around that. A lot of stuff that ended up in Daemon Pyre was written at 2000, 2001, 2002. Like, you know, End of Psychor and Infernal Method and even The Amenta, and moving through those bands was written over years that didn't fit into any of those and didn't work with those. And then that frustration of wanting to do that. And I guess it's interesting because I look back on the things to kind of try and see what I learnt from those experiences, and kind of going, well, yeah, I got to play in those bands, and I was really, you know, I was lucky to play in those bands that were what I considered to be exceptional at the time, not Psychor, but Infernal Method, The Amenta, you know, Day's End, they were what I thought exceptional bands. But I didn't kind of have the guts to do my own thing, or was it maybe not the self-belief, lacking in my own belief, and that when an opportunity came up to do someone said, hey, do you want to play with us? Instead of going, no, I'm going to do my own thing, I'd jump into them. But the problem is that I needed to do my own thing, and instead I was going into these projects wanting to write and be creative, But again, coming back to that idea of the already set and established processes of the band, it didn't work because I wanted to play.
Was it convenient to have those opportunities to go off and work with another band, because it moved you away from this thing that's festering, that's sort of, it's incomplete, it's something that you need to do, but you just don't have the capacity to be able to handle it or manage it or work out what you're going to do with it. So it's like a convenient distraction for you to be able to do these other opportunities.
Definitely. And they were always great opportunities. Yeah. Like, it was always like, fuck yeah, this band's amazing. I want to do this. Like, my stuff, it goes in the background. And then I'd try and bring it in or try and work with it. And, and by the time, and again, so yeah, that material, by the time I came out with Daemon Pyre, there was a bunch of it which was 14, 15 years old. And it was dated as fuck by that point. The album came out and people said, yeah, cool. Like, we had people interacting with it, but they'd say, oh, yeah, it's good. Maybe 10 years earlier, 13, 12 years earlier. And they were right. Like, it's not like I'd sit there and go, fuck you, man. It was like, look, it was me pushing stuff out that I've been around for so long. And that's why I've been so excited about the new album, because it's been a progression from that point. It's that stuff that came out on that took so long and went through so much to get it out. And the process of even getting it out was just, difficult as it was, even recording that album. This album takes 5 years to get to this point. It's just these circumstances of extreme difficulty to try and make these things happen. That conveniently now, coming to the US opportunity comes up. It's kind of like, I think I need to change.
Yeah, man. It's great timing. I mean, as you said before, the timing works as it is now. Things fall into place where they are. I mean, and maybe just to, I don't know, give you some, at least from my point of view, give you some reassurance about that album. Maybe I just don't have as much knowledge of the bands that influence you and what has influenced that album. I don't hear the dated aspect. However, the period of time, so the 13 odd years in between, if you fast forward another 10, 15, 20 down the track, I hate to think what I'm doing then, but when you look back, those gaps in time just decrease.
Oh, definitely.
And so the music won't sound as dated for the time that it came out, and it'll sit a lot better. If there was ever a concern, I don't think that,
okay, I say that. And again, that was part of the frustration, more so in the context of the story of trying to get that music, get it out.
Yeah.
At that point in time. And I guess that's more of my point. But an album is a statement about where you are at that point in time, and again, to have that as an achievement, and to actually even get it done, to do those things, to create something like that and actually get it done. Fuck, it's an achievement just to keep three, four, five people working together. At the end of the day, that's a success. People say, that's a successful band. A successful band actually works together, manages to continue to work together as a group. Irrelevant of commercial success, profile, or celebrity, that doesn't mean anything. It's the idea of, if you can get a bunch of opinionated, creative people working together who are actually pouring all of their time and money into something by choice, that they're getting very little out of on any level other than, frustrated personal satisfaction on some fucking level. That's successful. Well, like in Daemon Pyre, I'll credit Sam for this. He really promoted this part of the conversation, was, what does success look like for us? And we said that, as a band, we sat down and said, okay, well, what is success? What is successful to us? And we were like, we had the discussion. In the end, it was just kind of like, well, if we can release music consistently, tour even nationally in Australia, and head off overseas once or twice a year, we're happy with that. No delusions of grandeur. No, we want to be fucking rock stars and, doing, 60-date tours and all that sort of thing. Some of the guys in the band had, already had kids at the time and families, that shit just doesn't happen, or it can, but that's a whole different world.
Yeah.
it's the reality is why are we doing it? And it's just kind of like, well, are we doing it because we want to be this big successful band? No, we're doing it because we love doing it. We genuinely liked spending the time together. We genuinely liked going on tour. We liked hanging out. Like, we were very different as far as that's concerned, and very different from other bands that I've been in, because me being such an outrageous trash bag for so many years, and lived as much of that stupid lifestyle for so long, which is so detrimental to a band as well. That to be in that band where we went on tour, at the end of the night, yeah, there'd be times we'd have a few drinks, but we'd be pack up the gear, and then it was like, all right, well, yeah, we'll head back now. And we'd get up in the morning, and we'd all be feeling decent, and we'd go out for fucking pancakes. And it became this thing within us.
That's right, yeah.
Became this thing with us where we just liked, and you know, touring wasn't going crazy. It wasn't doing that. It was, we actually really enjoy this.
Yeah.
And we wanted to really enjoy it. And there was that lack of craziness and trashiness that really enhanced that experience. And I was going through long periods of sobriety and not touching booze and not doing anything at all, and really exploring that to a much bigger point in my life. And it all really worked well together. But I've just found I enjoyed everything more. My relationships were better and everything like that. And yeah, it was a far better experience.
It's a whole reprogramming. Like, even for us over the years playing shows, we would fly in, this is going back quite a few years now, but fly in to wherever we're going, go to the pub, drink.
Don't you start with airport bar before you fly to...
Oh, yeah, we've had a few under the bell already. Yeah. Traditional airport beer before we jet off, and or beers, and go to the pub. Maybe there's a sound check, if anyone can be fucked. If the sound guy hasn't rocked up, awesome, we can have more beers. So you straight away just disrespecting all the hard work that you've been put into it. You're just not caring about what the output's going to be on the night. You get on stage, you're fucking plastered. You can't remember half of what's going on. You think maybe you've had a good show, and then someone walks up and goes, "Yeah, I've seen you better." You're like, all right, no worries, sweet, keep drinking. You stay up all night. You either have a red eye home and you're fucked, or you sleep in until God knows what time, because you've got a night flight the following day, and then what the fuck are you going to do the next day? You're just going to sit around and drink. And so by the time you get home on that Sunday night, you are fucked.
Ratchet.
And that happens so often for us. And then we wondered why our live stuff was pretty piss poor at times, and we were so sloppy on stage. And it's like, oh, I wonder why. But when we started to work that out, we just didn't know what to do. We didn't know what to do with ourselves. Yeah, okay, so if we're not going to drink, what do we do? Like, we're going to sit around? And then when the smartphones started to kick in, everyone was just like on their phones. But it was just a really hard thing to try and work out, what are we going to do in this time? And you guys have been doing that. And I remember seeing a bunch of photos of you guys, getting pancakes and everything. I thought that was kind of cool. And I've seen a lot of other bands traveling and just doing random activities during the day just to fill in the time. But it's not at a bar. It's not at a pub.
Yeah.
And I still, and it's stupid in my head, because I still look at that as, wow, that's crazy. Like, it's cool. Like, it's still a novelty in my head.
It's totally uncool. Like, it goes against the whole thing of why people think that people who play in bands do what they do. There's this perception of it being this, it's got to be this hard partying kind of debaucherous sort of thing. But the reality is what actually in the end, like Daemon Pyre has been the band out of all the bands I've played in, I've been in the longest. It contributed to the longevity of it and our relationships and how we feel about each other. Was the fact that we weren't trashy and we didn't do that. And when we went on tour, it was like, get up in the morning, we go have breakfast together. We might go see a movie. We'll hang out with people. We did all this, what's supposedly like, oh, well, that's fucking boring. It's like, yeah, but we're not doing it for any other reason.
That's it, yeah.
Then when you get to the gig and you feel good about what you do, and you enjoy the people you're working with, and it's... and again, coming back to that idea of what is success and really enjoying it, and not doing what you believe is or is expected of that. It's really enjoying the experience.
And it's, there's a whole bunch of cliches that always fall into place, but it's like, enjoying the journey along the way. And I think there's been a lot of bands over the years that say, yeah, no one knows how hard it is to be a musician, because really the only glory is the hour that you have on stage, and the rest of it's fucked. The travel, the sitting around, the idle time, blah, blah, blah. And so you start to feed all that as you're growing up and you're learning, and you want to be in a band, and you start to hear these narratives, and it's constantly talked about. So a lot of people will find themselves with idle time, which is a waste of time, and there's nothing else to do apart from sitting around and drinking. And then anything else is just, it's boring, or it's not constructive or anything like that.
But that's really changed now.
It has, big time.
That's changed massively now. In the bands are forced to now going, well, I actually have a shitload of things I can do. Thank you to the interwebs and technology. They're now, that downtime can be utilised to build a business because, well, we just don't make money from music anymore.
That's it.
That's a whole nother conversation.
It is. I won't go down that path.
No,
but it's
not.
There's a lot there.
There is a lot there.
So, Daemon Pyre, you going to Thailand?
Yes. So we, on our last album, worked with Shane at Electric Sun. I'm not sure if you know of him, but he's worked.
Yep.
Yeah, he's worked with like Hellions, Diet as Murder, a whole range of punk, hardcore, and metal bands, and really knows his stuff. In fact, I knew him from working with Electric Sun when I worked at Guitar Factory many moons ago. And when we were thinking about with this album and actually coming to, well, who's gonna mix it, who's gonna look after it, and again, in the whole the whole theme of this is it's about us. It's about us being mates, working together and finishing this together. It's like, well, Shane's our mate, and we know he's great at what he does. And with the last two tracks, we released Unto a Dying World in 2017, which is the same session of the one which we did 3 years ago, and the one we're about to release now. And we send the tracks off to him. He does them over there, and he just sends them back to us. And we have faith in him, and we know what he does is really good. But this time we're like going, well, we know he's working out of Karma Sound, and in the whole spirit of what we're doing, we could go over there. And it actually works out to cost about the same as using a studio here.
Well,
all right, so he looks after us, and the studio rate he gives us is actually a bit cheaper than what we could actually get here. The flights actually cost you about $300 or $400 each way.
Yep.
And it's kind of like, well, I go away for 2 weeks. I spend 10 days in the studio there. We get to be more creative and more involved in the whole process because we're tracking the whole thing ourselves. And then we go there to we're doing acoustics, we're doing reamping, and we're doing mixing and then going through that process at Karma Sound. And again, it's his studio. He knows it back to front. It's great technology. It's a great setup. I've never been to Thailand before. And it's kind of like, fuck yeah. And I had no idea about the US at this point when we first decided on doing this.
Right, okay.
So I'm literally leaving in 2 weeks' time. We fly to Thailand to do the album. I get back, and then 2 weeks after I get back, I move to the US. I'm not making my life easy here.
No.
So yeah, it's basically. I mean, it's kind of a little. Why the fuck not?
It's cool. It's exactly what you said before about, trying to make this all an experience.
Yeah.
And you don't have that live element anymore, and you guys are trying to find a way to close or put an end to the chapter or end to the story in a way.
Yep.
And what a way to end it as this big sort of word came in my head was climax, where everybody's experiencing this together.
It is most definitely an experience, and I think as I'm getting on in my old age, it is all about the experience and enjoying the experience and being aware of the experience as it happens. And the idea of closing this off was about enjoying it as mates. We were due to do an East Coast, Melbourne, Sydney, Brisbane run in March to release the record, go and do that run. And then I was due to go to the US, but that tour got postponed. And then we're like, oh, fuck. And so, we also, to be honest, the original idea was we were going to do that tour. Then there was another one with an international band the next month, and we were going to release the album more gradually with the climax happening, a little later this year, and really finishing it all up then. But life happens, things come up, things change. But yeah, it's great to have this experience, and with the album done, it's kind of like then going, well, how are we going to do this? So there's still some ideas on what we're going to do. But again, it's really at this point just getting it done.
So I'm going to wrap it up. I'm going to put a bit of extra context around this. And I'll leave it for later, because that's when I'm going to really talk you up. So I won't do it now with you here to make you feel awkward and uncomfortable. But I'm going to put this episode out, I think, on the 21st of February, which will be about a week and a bit before your gig.
Well, yeah, see, the gig may not even happen.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, we were due to do the show on the 2nd, which we were working towards. But again, because we found out this international run only got cancelled over Christmas, then we were kind of left with only 2 months to try and make something happen. And it put us in a spot where we were looking at trying to do an East Coast run, and it just looked like a nightmare to try and do in such a short space of time, getting the right bands involved, logistically getting everything organised, and again with the US coming up, and I'd be driving the whole thing in addition to moving to overseas and everything else involved in it. And it was, again, getting away from the idea of why are we doing it? Are we enjoying the process? Are we going to actually enjoy this? Or are we doing it for the sake of it because we feel like we have to? And it's kind of like, well, in the end of the day, if it just doesn't happen, it's not right, then you just don't do it. And I'd really like the gig on the 2nd to happen, but at this stage, we're not sure if it will.
So, stay tuned.
Basically,
yes. People will know by the time they listen to this conversation whether that gig's going to happen. And I'll put all the links so people can find the band and all that shit. So if it happens, then March 2nd, and all the details will be up there. If it doesn't, then wait for the album.
Basically, yes.
Sounds good. Man, thank you so much. All the best for the US. How long are you over there for? We don't know yet. What's the minimum?
There's no minimum. The idea is that it's indefinite and it's ongoing. So yeah. I mean, look, I could be back in 6 months or a year. It's startup level business, so it could all go to shit. But again, I may not come back for 5 or 10 years. I don't know at this point. It's again, that's part of the excitement of it is that anything could happen. The element of the unknown. Yes. That's cool. Well, yes. Good luck, mate. Thank you, mate. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me. If you want to reach out to Andrew and let him know what you thought of this episode, or you want to check out Daemon Pyre, follow the progress of the album, which no doubt there'll be some announcements by the time this episode comes out, you can go over to the show notes over at andysocial.net. You can search for Daemon Pyre on all the socials. I think there's a big cartel page as well, so you can pick up some merch and music and whatnot, and also follow them for when their album announcements come out as well. But lots of stuff over at andysocial.net. As mentioned before, I'm going to dump a whole bunch of videos and music and stuff just from Andrew's career, because he has just done so much and just one of the best guitarists in Australian metal. And I know he'll hate me saying that, but just a really, really great guitarist and a great guy. So an absolute pleasure to finally catch up with him for the podcast. He was one of those guys that I probably should have hit up long before now, but better late than never. And this podcast isn't going anywhere anyway. So all the best, Andrew, with your trip to the US and finishing off the Daemon Pyre album. I look forward to hearing that when it's all ready to go. Go and check it out. Before we wrap it up, a few updates. As I mentioned at the beginning of this episode, this is the last day, or tomorrow will be the last day, if you're listening to this on the day that this episode comes out, I should say, to pre-order one of the United t-shirts, one of our brand new pieces of merch, over at lord.net.au/united, or you can just go to the Lord Bandcamp page, which I think is lordofficial.bandcamp.com, I think. Try it out, see where you get. This is the last day, or tomorrow it ends. After that, pre-orders close. If we've got any left over, then we may sell them anyway, but otherwise they'll be gone. So make sure you get in there, grab a t-shirt. It's a really, really cool design. And it's helping us fuel some of the upcoming things that are happening around this new album of ours called Fallen Idols, which is due out
at the end of April. Lots of cool things happening, which are still yet to be announced. So stay tuned, keep following us on all the socials, and you can go over to lord.net.au/united as well. Go and check it out, and your support means the world to us. With Self-Starter, as mentioned at the beginning, we're in a little bit of a break at the moment between season 1 and season 2. Season 2 is going to be out in June. But please, as I've been saying before, if you've got any guest recommendations, if you know anybody that's got their own business or is about to start one, or maybe somebody out there that earns a little bit of extra pocket money, has a side hustle, doing all sorts of things, I'd love to hear from you. Any recommendations for Self-Starter is greatly appreciated, and I'm in the process of recording season 2 now. So please shoot me a message if you've got anyone in mind. It would be great. And that's about it, folks. So until next week, just, I don't know, buy a t-shirt. Yeah, just do that. All right, lord.net.au, andysocial.net, selfstarter.com.au, andydowling.net. Oh, you wanker. Jeez. All right, next week. All right, see you, folks. Ta-ta.